So once again, a good morning to everybody. We have with us CA Vipin Batavia, who really needs very little introduction. Everybody knows him. And he'll be taking a session on charitable trusts. So to give a formal vote of introduction, I request our past convener, CA Krishna Kumar Kedia ji.
Thank you, Vijita ji, for giving me this opportunity. Today's topic is recent amendments and issues pertaining to charitable trusts, and the speaker is none other than our own CA Vipin Batavia ji. He is a regular speaker in our study circle. By qualification, he is BCom and FCA, and he passed CA in the year 1985. He is practicing independently since then in the name of Vipin Batavia and Company. In profession, he is in the main area of formation of companies, audit, taxation, FCRA, CSR, charitable commissioner, and all other matters pertaining to charitable and religious trust, NGOs, association, etc. According to his professional achievement, he was the president of Chamber of Tax Consultant, one of the renowned organization of Bombay, in 2003-4, which is a 98-year-old tax professional renowned organization. He was the office bearer of Chamber of Tax Consultant for more than 5 years. He was actively involved in various committees of BCAS and WRC. He had co-authored the book on charitable trust, which was published by Chamber of Tax Consultant. He had also delivered the various lectures in different professional bodies, study circles, trade association, other public forums at Mumbai and outside Mumbai also. He had written articles in various professional magazines and newspapers on various topics pertaining to charitable trust and institution and association, including amendments and issues. As per his activities, he is running his own charitable trust, and he was attached with various charitable organizations and associations in various capacities, including advisor and trustee of various trusts. He was the National Secretary of All India organization called Dharam Bharti Mission. With these words, I request our past convener, CNM Jain, to give a bouquet to.
I will request Sadaji also. So one convener and one member.
In the teaching.
Yeah. So please welcome CA Batavia with a long round of applause.
इधर गया पीपीटी सेट कर गुड मॉर्निंग फ्रेंड्स पिंकी जी कहाँ गई रिस्पेक्टेड पिंकी एरिया treasurer of WARC, convener of famous JB Nagar CP Study Circle, deputy convener Mr. Kailash and Mr. Krishna, my dear friends. I have spoken earlier on the same topic. So I have been called again to speak on the same topic. I don't know whether I was unable to explain you fully or whether there is a need for further education. Yeah, I hope so. There's one more reason. There are few important changes in between as well. Particularly registration, new methods of registration, which has been brought into statute from 1/4/22 applicable. It was in the budget 21. And still, after I think 2.5 years, 2 assessments are gone. Still, there is no clarity. There are many problems. CBDT is trying to clarify those difficulties when they realize. And therefore, I thought, instead of going the whole amendments, which I think you all must be aware, because you must have filed the returns or attended to various other requirements in the last 2 years. And earlier also, we have spoken, you must have heard and read the provisions. I thought I will cover in detail these registration provisions and their issues. And we'll take in detail in full question answer. And then I'll go to another topic. And then important amendments where there are some judgments or some changes are there, I can cover those. So coming to the topic proper. What is the purpose of registration? The primary purpose of the registration and approval under 1023C or registration under section 12A earlier, 12AA thereafter, then 12AB recently, is to provide tax benefits to the trust and institutions engaged in charitable or religious activity. Friends, you will find everywhere in the law provisions applicable to charitable trust equally includes religious activities. In our country, religious activity has got that importance, and there are more beneficial provisions given to the religious trust as well. Why registration under IT Act is needed? You can do your charities even without registration. There is no restriction or harm. But if activity of charitable nature is done with a proper legal manner, then it is, if a registered trust is there, it's a separate entity by itself. So there is a legal standing. Yeah, our co-speaker Nishchit Shetty. Yeah. So the registration is required if you want to take benefits under Income Tax Act. You can do activity without registration as well, I said. But to obtain tax benefit, particularly section 11 and 1023C, you need to require the trust to be either registered under 12AB presently and or getting approval for 1023C, because 1023C is called approval and 12A registration, or in short, I'll say 12A registration. So because 12A is still there, 12 and 12A is still there in the statute. Friends, then for getting exemption, you need registration. There is a amendment and section 1310. Let it be on, I think. Is it visible? As long as I can see you, no problem. So 1310 section has been added. Special particular calculation for the taxable income for a charitable trust, if they lose registration or in a particular year, it is registered, it is taxed at an unregistered trust. So there was so many litigations was there on this topic. For any reason, if it is assessed, say provisional 215 is applicable, any violation is done, audit report is not filed, or other reasons are there where the assessing officer will register or do not grant you exemption under 11 or 1023C. In those circumstances, many officers were taxing the gross receipts. Many were allowing only expenditure incurred on the establishment expenses, maintenance and running of the trust. And many were allowing even amount spent on object of the trust. That was depending on the nature of the activity. Because if it is a school or hospital, so all expenses are spent on that school, that was rightly allowed. So to make it a general and beneficial to all the trust, section 1310 has been brought into statute, wherein all expenses will be allowed out of the gross receipts, except capital expenditure, donation to other trusts, and other disallowances like depreciation if it is not allowable, or TDS is not earning, or cash payments, those will not be allowed. Otherwise, all other expenses, including amount spent on the object of the trust, will be allowed as a deduction, and on that net computed income, it will be taxed. So it's a very good provision. That litigation is almost settled down, and beneficial provision for the charitable trust. For some reasons, if they lose registration benefits. There are other benefits also to a charitable trust. See, if a charitable trust gets some import items, instruments or machineries for medical or education purposes, there is an exemption in custom duty. They have to complete formalities and they have got certain conditions. If you fulfill conditions, those custom duty is exempted. There are concession, earlier it was there, I don't know the present situation. The electric BEST was giving concessional rate for the charitable trust electricity charges. So there are, and there is a standing. If it is a legal entity and you can file a suit to others, others can file suit to you. There is a regularization of the activities and provisions and trustees cannot take indirect benefits from the trust. That is why the registration is necessary. Now, I'll just give you the highlights of the registration, which I think you all must be knowing, but just for a matter of revising your memory. The process has become completely electronic. Everything is online. There was decentralization of the registration of charitable trust because every CIT exemption under his jurisdiction, he was granting registration, record was with him, the number was differently allotted by different CITs. And there was no common, data with the government. How many trusts are there? Their particular number or record were not there with the government. So they thought to make it a centralized record for and granting certain registration and certain process they have made to in the new law, where it has been given a power to CPC to grant you. But renewal and from provisional to normal regular registration, CIT will do because there is a verification and documentary evidences are required to satisfy himself to continue the grant the registration. So that is why they are allotting one number to every trust, that is unique registration number. So all India basis, every trust we are registered, they have a particular separate number for that. Then registration will now be governed by section 12AB. Earlier it was governed by 12A, then procedural aspect 12AA, then 12AA has been replaced by section 12AD and provided to 1 and 2 of section 1023C. No more registration in perpetuity. Earlier the registration was granted perpetual unless it is cancelled. Now it is, registration is only for 5 years. So you have to be very careful because every 5 years you have to go to them for renewal and they will verify all your activities during that period, mainly for last 3 years, but they may go up to 5 years. So every trust has to follow the rules and regulations and provisions in law, and compliance is also in time. That is also one of the main object of this bringing the new registrations. If you remember 2010, even FCRA also now restricted to 5 years registration. So every 5 years when you go for renewal, they will check what you have done. If they are satisfied, then they will continue, otherwise they will reject. And for charitable trust, it's become very dangerous to go for cancellation for any reason or any wrong doing. If the trust goes towards to cancellation, there is a huge tax liability that we'll see later on. All existing trusts also needed to apply for re-registration. Earlier, means every trust was required to file a new form 10A and to get re-registration with minimum 4 or 5 documents were required to be attached, and you are directly getting online registration. And registration is granted in 10AC. Even ATG is also 10AC. Even 1023 are also in 10AC. I don't know why the same form has been kept. Many times when we send them registration copies, so okay, why you have sent 2 copies? So I said, one is for ATG and one is for 12. So this is what is the way now the new registration procedure is. And further is there is a new concept. A provisional registration has been introduced. Now, new trust can obtain provisional registration, and that registration is for 3 years. And how the renewal is to be done, we'll see later on. And the maximum problem in provisional to regular registration is there. Now, old registration was valid up to assessment year 21-22. It means if you have missed that filing or getting or obtaining re-registration, from assessment year 22-23, your trust will be treated as an unregistered trust. And all the consequences will apply. And the last one, strict timeline. There is a very strict timeline provided for application, for renewal, for them also. Within 1 month, within 3 months, within 6 months, they have to grant or refuse. So they have made these provisions strictly in the perfect proper timeline. If you miss a day, gone. So that care is to be taken for whether re-registration, whether renewal, whether changes in object clause, and 30 days you have to reapply. So that care is to be taken that those applications should be filed within the prescribed time. The old provision, we know it is up to, it was in 90, 12AA was added in 97, and then with effect from 1421, it is 12AB. Now 12AB, a procedure for the fresh registration has been inserted by taxation laws 2020 with effect from 1421, where the PCIT or CIT will grant you the registration or rejection within the prescribed time. They are also given the limited time. And one new section 12A1 small AC has been added. And that section gives you the what form and within what time, what situation you have to file when the applications. And there are similar provisions. Now, with this amendment, one more thing they have done is the provisions for 1023C and 11 are almost streamlined. The provisions are almost same, except few different provisions are there. Otherwise, it is almost the same. Now, what is 12A1 AC and proviso 1 and 2 of 1023C? So the timeline for registration of trust and institution, application is to be done in your prescribed form, either 10A or 10AB. I have given a chart, you will see later on when 10A is to be filed and when 10AB is to be filed. But there is also problem. Re-registration approval in form 10A. The old trusts which were having registration, they were required to file form 10A for re-registration. Earlier, the provision was within 3 months after the budget was submitted, up to 30th June it was. And then it was because at that time even COVID period was also going on. So time and again extended. So the first regular extensions were up to 31st March 22. Then further, they have given the opportunities, and presently also circular 7 is issued, which we will see in detail. They have given one more opportunity, and I believe this will be the last one. We cannot now go and again ask, because already 3 times they have extended. Because there were many trusts, and I blame our profession for this matter. They have not bothered to just submit a form for the trust which they were handling. And that matter was going on.
देखना स्क्रीन पे कैमरा
I didn't know I have got co-speaker. Yeah, right. Now, the registration is granted for 5 years. Mostly, uh, so all old registration, old ATG, old 1023C, they all were granted re-registration. I am using the word re-registration. I will use the word renewal, provisional to regular. So there it is granted to all, mostly from assessment year 22, 23 to 26, 27. Because up to 21, 22, old registration is valid, in 22, 23, you get, so there is a continuity. Then renewal is to be done after the registration was granted for 5 years, 6 months before the expiry of that date, you have to apply. Very strictly 6 months. And the word is used at least 6 months prior to. So you can submit earlier as well. So I advise from April onwards, start filing your applications. So earlier the better. Then there is provisional to regular registration. When new trust, if you apply, you get provisional registration without inquiry, even without activities conducted. You can apply for provisional registration and directly you get online for 3 years. But that renewal also is to be done prior to expiry of 6 months of the registration granted or within 6 months from the commencement of activities. So this provision of within 6 months from the commencement of activities are missed by many trusts. Because they thought we have got for three years, now we can continue for 3 years. But then the second part of that provision within 6 months from the commencement of activities was missed. And there are many applications were rejected on this ground because it was time bound. And CIT was also right because he has no power to condone those delays. There is no condonation granting. So he has nothing. Even if he wanted to grant, he could not. The legal course was to the trust to go to ITIT. And for your information, in last 2 years, since CIT appeals are not passing the orders, there is no pressure in the ITIT hearings. So we were getting immediately within 1 or 2 months or 3 months the hearing. And most of the cases where registration is rejected for any ground, either non-compliance or by belated, most of the cases they have sent back to the CIT. So ITIT took majority appeals in favor of the trust. क्या कर गया? These are technical glitches we have to come. Those people who are practicing since old many years, we had to learn all these techniques and the new systems, and accordingly we have to move. Inoperative, section Form 10AB. Let me complete this portion and then question, no problem. Now there is a provision. Earlier provision was there, the trust can have 1023C approval and registration under 12A or 12AA, and they were entitled for both the exemption, 1023C 100% fully exempted, and section 11 conditional. If you fulfill condition, then the full income is exempted. So it was permitted. People were having both the registration, and in that case, many mistakes were done by the computing, because when your trust is having 100% exemption, then why to claim 11 as well along with that? Because filing of audit reports were necessary. From 1023C it was 10BB, and for 11 it was 10B. So if you claim both the exemption, then you are required to file both the audit reports. And many cases, people have done the mistake. They were just filing 10BB, and the additions were there by CPC itself. For 11 were rejected. So now they have made a provision. A trust cannot have both the registrations. You cannot ride on two horses. So either 1023C or 11. So from this new provision, every trust was entitled for apply only for one registration, and mostly the trusts which were having 1023C, they went for 1023. So this is another amendment where only one registration can be obtained. If you get 1023C, then 11 will be inoperative. There is a provision from shifting from 1023C to 11. Those provisions we'll see later. And that is once only. And vice versa is not allowed. If you are having 11, there is no provision that you can go for 1023C. Then modification in the objects of the trust. There is a provision which says if you modify any of the object of the trust, then you are required to obtain re-registration within 30 days from the implementation of those changes. So this is a provision. You have to be very careful if you are amending objects, clauses of the trust. So within 30 days from the implementation of those changes, you have to apply for re-registration. Because in that case, CIT will see that whether these objects are permissible or not, and then they will grant the re-registration. Sorry, those. I will not touch now. Nahi. Thank you. Thanks for it. No, but the sound so much Hindi mein karkas bolte hain. So that has affected. It's okay. It's okay. Now I think we should not disturb it. Now modification objects we have seen, you have to be very careful. Now there is a practical problem in that. If your trust is registered under Maharashtra Public Trust Act, it is not possible at all to get it approved within 30 days. It takes 4 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. There is no any time. Then how, when you will apply, when you will implement those changes, and when you will go for 30 days registration, these problems are there. And even ROC, nowadays, I think you can get it within 30 days. The changes are very fast, you can get it. But not in all cases. If you miss that, then there is a problem. So there is a practical solution. I advise for the trust and we professionals that the implementation should be done after the approval of those changes. It will be, resolution is to be passed, the implementation of these changes will be done after the approval from the appropriate authority. But in some cases, if you need immediate implementation, then you can go for that approval, let it be pending, but you can go to income tax within 30 days and argue with them. And if those changes are as per the income tax provisions and allowable, then they will grant. The problem will be there, they will ask approval from that legal authority where you are registered. If they refuse, then what? Or they say make changes in that. So there may be a problem. Now, in any other case, so all other 5 subclauses have a particular situations. In the 6th, in any other case where the activities of the trust, A, not commenced, B, commenced. Earlier for assessment year 22-23, this subclause B was not there. Any other case, you apply whether it is commenced or not commenced, and you get the provisional registration. But now after 110-23, this B clause has been added that if your activities you have started, then you need not go for provisional registration. You can directly apply for the registration and get it for 5 years. So unnecessary go for provisional, then you apply for the regular registration. So they have given you can go directly also for regular registration for 5 years. But subclause B has got, I'll read that, which is creating some problem. See, not commence is there at least 1 month prior to the commencement of the previous year relevant to the assessment year from which the said registration is sought. This date line is really very, what word I use? You have to apply 1 month before the previous year for the assessment year you are asking for assessment. Means in February, you have to apply to get for the next year registration. So this provision was really, then you cannot get the registration in first year. Because the February is already gone. Registration is done any time during the year. Then if you apply, and that is also at least 1 month. So otherwise you have gone for another 1 more year. But there is a circular, I think circular 3 it is, I don't remember exactly, where they have clarified that the year in which you apply, you will get the registration from that year. So CBDT has clarified this provision, but Act still says 1 month prior to the previous year. Now, if your activities are commenced, the condition is added that the trust has in past, in any year, has not taken benefit of section 1023C or section 11. If a trust has taken benefit in past, 11 means exemption you have claimed, or 1023C you have claimed, in that case, you cannot apply for subclause B. And the situation in such cases, the same is with ATG. The trust has no option to get the registration. They have to continue unregistered trust. So this is the situation still after the circular 7 has come, will continue. So this provision is to be kept in mind, because when you are applying directly for subclause 6B, you check whether any claim has been made in past term. But generally it is for new trust. So there is a very rare chance you are claiming. But some cases where you have missed re-registration, that there it was giving problem. Now ATG has got no those two modification and not getting 1023C or 11 is not there in ATGC. So the two sub clauses are not there. So 1 to 4 is there, and it is the same as per 12A AC, 12A1 AC provisions. The same provisions are there. That's why I have mentioned in that. Only thing is, I am surprised that clause 6B, they have brought cut paste from 12A to ATG. Now ATG has no connection with claiming 11 or 1023 in past. So even if you have claimed 11, you will not get ATG as well. We have represented all these matters, even through institute also, through other associations also. This circular 7 is also that hard press representations were made. And inside also, the commissioner has said that we are facing problems day in, day out. So that's why the circular 7 has been brought. Now we'll go to, these are the chart I have given, the extensions given. The last one is up to June 24. Now circular 7. It has been issued on 25th of April 24, wherein CBDT has given one more opportunities for the trust who miss that re-registration provisions from assessment year 22-23. It's a very good circular. And I'll tell every member present here, if anybody or any trust has missed that registration, take the benefit of these provisions, because it has covered all gamut where the problems are were there. So you can regularize the registration matter from assessment year 22-23. Now this circular says where the form 10A re-registration is not filed by the trust, or they have missed. They can file before 30th June. The due date is given in the circular is 30th of June. Before 30th June, and get the re-registration from assessment year 22-23. So any problem in between they have faced for assessment year 22-23 and expected for 23-24 will be solved. And there are, I tell you, I get many cases they miss. And there is an amendment in 115 TD. 115 TD is very harsh provision where re-registration is also now covered. And if the trust has got immovable property, then tax is to be levied on maximum marginal rate on the market value of those assets minus the liability, 30% plus the surcharge, whatever. So this is very harsh provision. Second is 10AB. So for every one issues I have covered. In case where for assessment year 22-23 pending before CIT appeal or ITAT. Because if you miss that, and thereafter you applied for provisional, but that is not granted, or if it was granted and rejected, or your assessment was reopened, or normal scrutiny was there. Many cases of assessment year 22-23 were assessed 143.3 because you were not having the registration and particularly rejections. So they were having that record, they issued the notice to them and assessed unregistered trust and levied the taxes. So the option with us was to go for CIT appeal. So in these cases, even after you get the registration, I will advise not to withdraw the appeals because it cannot be rectified. 154 will not apply because there is no mistake apparent from record. At the time of assessment, you were not having registration and ITO has done, AO has done rightly that assessment. So you have to see that CIT appeal gives you the effect on that. Your submission, you have to go for that. So it is advisable not to withdraw any appeal on this ground, either ITAT or CIT appeal. Then form 10AB, that is provisional to regular registration. In case an application under 1023C or 12AC3 or 80G3, that is from renewal provisional to regular, if you have missed that date, and if you have a belated application has been filed, then you are also entitled to apply for getting registration. So you can file 10AB form, and that provisional can be granted to you, regular registration. But there are only two situations are covered in this matter. One is if it is time barred, in the sense within 6 months of commencement of activity, you have not done in time. Because 6 months prior it is still not over. Because from 22 to 23, it will over by 26. It is, that is, I think it will be 25. So that is not over. So within 6 months, you have not applied. In those cases, you can apply and get it done, and the normal registration you can obtain. A belated is not filed, or for any other reason it is called, but if it is rejected for non-compliance, that situation is not covered in the circular. Now, I have discussed with CIT and their staff why, if when everything is you are bringing to make it normal, why this non-compliance for some reason you are not covering in that. So we have already talked to CBDT, and now we may consider that also application, wait for some more time, clarification, either come or we can accept and grant that. That is only non-compliance. Then another situation is you miss that re-registration, and you realize in assessment year 22-23, when additions were made, when notices were sent, when you received 143.1A2 for adjustment notices, okay, you missed the registration. Then to stop the loss for future years, many people have applied for provisional registration, and in between obtain the provisional registration either from assessment year 23-24 and mostly from 24-25. Because by the time you realize that assessment was also passed. In that case, the trust is facing either for 1 year or 2 years problem as an unregistered. The representation were made in those cases because you brought these new provisions and somebody has missed, you want to tax a charitable trust. So they realize, and in that case also, they have said in the circular, you surrender that provisional registration and apply for the re-registration. And in that case, you will get registration from assessment year 22-23 onwards. So those in-between problems are also solved. And even one more provision, yeah, please. If by any chance you have applied, registration, let us apply for re-registration, even time bar, we submit the application. Some has taken, even I have advised many cases, at least you apply. If you have applied in subclause 3, that is provisional to regular registration, then in that case, your application which is pending before CIT, before the date of issue of this circular, it will be treated as a valid application under the new circular 7. So in that case, you need not apply again. They will grant you registration from 22-23. So those pending applications will be treated valid under this circular. But if you have filed that application under clause 6B, then there is a problem. In that case, the system will not accept your new form. It will say your application is already pending. So there also this point I have discussed with many, which we regularly meet them and trying to solve the practical procedural aspect problems. So that they say unless we reject, you cannot go for this new application. There are only 2 months are there. So they have already started finding out the application which is filed under 6B. And they are samne se calling or requesting they apply for rejection. So that can be done immediately. Otherwise, they have a 6-month time. So in this case, if you come to know that application has been made in 6B, you come forward and apply as per circular 7. We are applying for the fresh registration. Kindly reject our this application to allow us to take the benefit of section circular 7. So in that case, you have to apply for surrender, rejection rather. Now circular 7, yeah, I have covered everything. Now question. Yes, please. Some questions were there. I can take up the question.
Sir, which is that circular where provisional should be read as regular for 5 years of provisional? And when it is happening?
Nah.
Right.
Yeah, what is your question, please?
So my question is, there is a circular which states if provisional is granted for 5 years.
Provisional cannot be for 5 years.
No, then it should be some may be in provision for 5 years.
That is, I'll explain to you that. Tell me now.
Then there was a circular which stated that provisional rate need to be read as.
Yes, that is circular 11 of 2022. Correct.
So in that case, AB is not applicable. 12B.
No. That circular 11, I think everybody should read it. Every trust should keep that circular 11 along with that registration certificate. Because that registration certificate heading says provisional registration.
Yes.
DGIT CPC overstepped the provisions and granted the provisional without understanding the provisions of provisional registrations. Now in that case,
Should we apply for this?
nothing, you have a valid registration for 5 years in the correct subclause 1. You need not do anything. It is to be considered because that circular says it's a typographical error. Now, how can there be a typographical error of the heading? Inside also provisional registration, provisional URN. So, whatever it may be. They have said it is to be treated as a normal registration, order of registration. But you face the problem when you go to the donor or CSR activities. They say you have a provisional registration, get the regular registration, then we'll give you. So there this circular will be useful. Another thing, DGIT has further stepped ahead, putting certain conditions for registration, which were beyond rules and law, beyond act, like obtaining prior permission before going for change in the objects. There is no provision in the law. How registration there can be such condition? And you have to intimate all the assets which you have acquired to the CIT exemption. We can understand immovable property. But movable property? If you buy a computer, you have to intimate. If you buy furniture, you have to intimate. And schools and hospitals, daily, every weekly, daily they buy. Even CIT said, what I will do with that information? So these, there are 2 more such conditions. So these conditions also replaced by that circular. So even you have a normal registration of 5 years, which is to be treated as a order of registration. So those conditions also replaced. So that circular is required to be kept with that registration for at least 5 years for our benefit. And that circular has clarified this technical glitch. You need not. End of the day. Yeah, there was one question, or I have solved it. Any question on this registration? Yeah, please.
Sir, trust has got a new registration. The trust was started after 1/4/21.
Miss Provisional.
Provisional for 3 years.
Yes.
Then when it should apply for the regular, there are two conditions.
Yes.
One is within 6 months of the activity commencement or before the expiry of the.
Correct.
One of the trusts went for that. before
Which
the-
one?
But we applied it for after the commencement of activity.
Ah.
But we got the commencement of activity was starting the bank account and collection. The collection of the.
Now your question is, what is the date of commencement?
Date of commencement. Actually, thing is further, after we went for the regular, it was rejected.
Yes.
So what is the course?
The first, number one, I'll tell you. This case is covered in circular 7. You can go for circular 7 and apply. You will get the registration. Now, the question of date of commencement of activities. Whether opening a bank account is a commencement of activity, whether any donation received by the trust is a date of commencement, because within 6 months from the commencement of activity. Even if you apply before the commencement, they will reject it. Now there are cases. And rightly so, because he says this is the law. I cannot condone those delays or prior dates. Or if you have spent some money for establishment. So the question is, what is the date of commencement? For your information, in the law, in provision, in any case law, the case is not still gone to up to that level that we get the orders. There is no clarification what is the date of commencement. But so far as CIT exemption Bombay is concerned, even Pune is also concerned. Because we have discussed with Mr. Kumar also that you take the one view, and most of the CIT has taken that view, because trust is formed for what? Charitable activities. So the commencement of activity of the trust will be the beginning, the day on which you start your activity on your object. And this is a view taken by them. And go ahead with that date on which you have started your activities, not application. There is a question between amount spent on the establishment and amount spent on the object of the trust. Amount spent on the establishment expenses are considered an application of income. But that is not commencement of your activity. So the day on which you start your activity, whether medical, education, related to poor or any other, that will be the date of commencement.
Sir, I have a question. Though the delay in applying for the registration.
10A or
10 AM. And which was applied in the assessment year 24-25. Because the drop down was showing only 24-25, it was not allowing the prior years. So the registration is also being granted. Do I have to go back again
No,
and apply?
You check your certificate, it will be provisional registration. See, 10A you cannot file after the due date. So 10A is the form for registration, whether re-registration, whether 6B new directly registration, But if you apply in between, after that extended dates, the last extended date was September, 30th September. And again in November, they opened it for 25 days. So CBDT says we have already given 3 opportunities, still you are coming for that. But then they understood because there was an internal pressure as well. So in your case, you check it must be provisional for 3 years from 24-25. Now you have an opportunity to file 10A under Circular 7, as per Circular 7, and obtain from 22-23 regular registration. This is the reason for that they have brought this circular. And then other conditions was situations in between, like yours.
720. So when it got registered in 1995,
Okay.
and they have not applied for income tax in the pay number also.
PAN number also not. Okay.
But they have purchased renewable property
Okay.
in the year 2000.
Okay.
Now, age of today's scenario, can they apply and get the benefit under Circular 7? For applying pay number, for applying for LIG.
Even without Circular 7 also, any unregistered trust come forward and get it registered. But the question is assessment year. The trusts which are having old registration, claiming exemption 11, if they have a crores rupees of income, if they miss in between assessment year, then heavy tax liability. But in this case, you have not, you were unregistered. I said earlier, you can continue your activities. But you must be registered under Maharashtra County Trust Act. There you are filing accounts. So if you have a taxable income, you are supposed to file, ITR file. And you should have obtained PAN number. Without PAN, how you open the bank account?
In old days, it's
95 it is done. Eh? But now regularize that trust because there is a property. And religious trust has got many benefits. Anonymous donation not applicable. Any amount you receive in the collection box is free. Free means it is treated as income. So there are many benefits. Even for Ram Mandir, they have brought new looking that, but they cannot give only for one trust. So they have added mosque, church, Gurudwara. They can, that is the only situation in which the trust have option to treat those donation either corpus or normal donation. Otherwise, there is no provision unless the direction is from the donor. And they can apply accordingly that money for capital expenditure. That is there. But in your case, I will say you immediately apply. You have no need, you have no concern with Circular 7. Circular 7, who have missed the buses 3 times. For them it is to regularize for them. In your case, you directly apply for provisional to 6B. Because you have not claimed 11 in past. Activity is commenced.
No, but date of commencement should be in which date of.
You have got to mention date of commencement in that application. Or even if the mention is to 1st April, you can put. But you can file directly and obtain direct registration under 6B, commencement of activity. Welcome, Rajkumar. Good morning. See you again so shortly.
Yes, yes.
Our pleasure. I am delighted your presence.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think he deserves the clap. Friends, I have given this. Any other question, please? Yeah, please. Yeah, one by one. Because to any number of questions, I will curtail other my speech. No, but this is a real problem which we are facing, and there is an opportunity given by the government. So why not to understand properly and go ahead with that? So that will be a fruitful discussion today. Up to.
So I can apply for regular, provisional to regular before 30th September 2024.
But what about commencement of activity?
No, after the provisional registration, activity is not being done.
It's still not commenced.
No.
No, so there is a provision. 6 months prior to expiry of date, you have to apply.
Yes, I applied for a regular renewal of registration. But Commissioner said that since you have not commenced the activity, your application is rejected.
Rightly so. You should.
But there are two situations in which it can be granted the registration. At the commencement or at least 6 months prior, I can apply. So I have not commenced activity, but I applied 6 months prior.
But see how the same position which was there before the new provisions came. How you will satisfy commissioner activities of the genuineness of the activities of the trust? You see, you have opened a charitable trust. For 3 years, you are not doing any activity. So why you are going for 11? This is, I'm talking from their angle. Because you are not doing any activity for 3 years. So what is the purpose of that trust? Just an ornament? See, because he has to satisfy two conditions, genuineness of the activities and compliances of any other law. To compliances of any other law, you can explain. But how you will satisfy with this activity? There are many judgments in past. For granting registration, it is not required the activities should be there. But there are contrary judgments as well. And they are very, and see, I tell you one thing, let us be practical. The CIT, how will say he is satisfied with the genuineness of the activity when there is no activity? So there is a difficulty in your case. I think after application, do some activities. आजकल क्या 25-50 हजार का डोनेशन लेके कोई भी एक्टिविटी करके you apply ना, you will get it. So let us find out the practical via media. But it is rejected.
So I apply again before 30th September 2024. Meanwhile,
Why June?
No. I have provisional registration up to assessment year 25-26 this time. So I have to apply 6 months prior to.
So still that is pending. You are saying you have applied and rejected.
Once I applied and rejected, but still I have time to.
I doubt, but before that you start activity and apply, then you can say why you have come again because activity started. So that will be the right advice, I believe. You are welcome. Anytime. A very good friend of mine.
I didn't, in this case, like, but activity was continuously on, but the regular registration has not been filed.
Regular?
Provisional registration is there up to assessment at 25-26. Activity is also there, but regular registration is not filed.
Gone. It's a gone case, but you have a benefit of circular 7. You go ahead and do it because 6 months, within 6 months from the commencement of activities. No, within 6 months means if it is the day 1, your activities are old trust. Like he says, not filed. So in that case, if you go for provisional registration, immediately within 6 months, you are required to file. I advise you in next month only. But if you have not filed, you have missed it, you have an opportunity that circular 7 covers this situation as well. You can apply and get it. Directly you apply for registration. But 6B, you have activities are there. You have claimed. Provisional is there means you have claimed. So you can withdraw, surrender that and go for registration. Because there is a system says surrender is also permitted.
So in this case, suppose it doesn't start the activity, then that provisionally will be continued.
No. Up to the date you can.
Then after that.
Then that period is over.
Then again you apply for provisional.
Provisional, that situation has never arisen, that time has never come, still not come. Whether, I think system, whether accept or not. I think system will not, then you will continue provisional and provisional. I think it is not fair. From my experience point of view, I will say that Please, let's be little practical. You want registration, you want 11, then go for some activity and apply. Our trustees can donate and give donation to medical or educational. You're doing activities, the purpose of the trust is started. So, and then go for normal registration, you will get it. Then again, you can sit for 5 years. But there also you will face problem, go for anyone. Please, Anil.
So, old trust having activity, first time I applied for 20. But rejection was,
After 21,
in the new registration, application was made, but it was rejected for non-compliance. Whereas no communication was there.
that is, you see, that problem many trust faced. Because where is Mr. KK? So he also faced the similar problems. Because they have sent the notices, they say they have forwarded, but the SSC has not received it. And it is rejected because they have, and they are writing in the order.
Yes.
Because they have a time limit, so they could not give any other opportunity, and for that reason we are. So you have only one option, is IT-80. And IT-80 is almost sending back to CIT for consideration. Because non-compliance is not covered in circulars. That's a really very bad part of it. When you are giving complete exemption, why one situation you are not bothering? Yes, please.
Sir, if there are collection of 10 lakhs, so if we spend less than 20%,
15%.
15% other than charitable activities, plus if we spend.
Establishment.
No, not that. 10 lakhs collected and only spent on charitable activities to the tune of 1 lakh. Then again, it will fall on under this last heading of other than charitable activities, not utilizing 20% of on the charitable activities, it is not considered as a. So rejection can be on that grounds.
In your case, if I rightly understood, 10 lakhs is received, only 1 lakh is spent, 9 lakh is not spent. But and the year in which these transactions are happened, the trust was unregistered. Correct?
Yes.
So the first requirement is you have to file the return. You have PAN number. You have to file the return ITR 5 and pay the taxes as AOP. Because 9 lakhs is the income, more than 2.5 lakhs. So you are liable to file the return, 139. But now, if you go for registration,
Commencement of
commence, means it is not commenced at all. You have already spent 1 lakh.
this 1 lakh, then can the assessing officer tell, since the amount spent is less than 20% or 15%?
See, it is 15%. Earlier it was 25, long back. 15% you can retain, 85% is to be spent. To claim section 11, there is no blanket restriction that you have to spend compulsorily. There are accumulation provisions.
Yeah.
11(1)(a) clause 1 says, and 11(2) is also there. But that is all you can get the benefit if you are registered trust. Now, in this case, you have only option to file. You can apply for registration, but you should file the return as well. And tax liability, if any arises, you pay that and go forward, then you will get the registration. But they will ask what you have done for that 9 lakhs. Because they will ask accounts also for last 3 years. So in this case, there is a problem. Or if there is a corpus donation. But corpus is also treated as an income nowadays. But there are few judgments which I have mentioned in my even non-registered trust receiving capital expenditure is also capital income is exempted. But department has not accepted that. They are litigating those matters like carry forward of excess spending till Supreme Court. Subroto case, they have rejected. Then they brought the amendment. Yes, please. I think last question, then the very important part I want to take is the cancellation of registration.
When I have provisional registration, can I obtain, receive a CSR contribution after filing form with our school?
Yes, I think they are granting. They are not looking whether it is normal or provisional. Because CSR 1 requires two things, ATG and registration and 3 years track record. These three conditions are there. So if you are, in your case, activities is not started, it's a different trust.
No, but if it is founded by the settler, by the company which is going to.
Then that 3 years period is not applicable. That exclusion is there. Good. Yes, please. Mike, please, you are very far. But to
Please share the.
वो तो that they will send it. अभी दूसरों को क्वेश्चन डालने थे हाँ माइक दे यार I can hear you, I think, if you are loud enough. Yes, I am here to clear that. I will try.
Sir, I have previously registrations to 2021 and after I did.
12 double A.
Hello.
12 double A.
Yeah, 12 double. After that, I got a registration in 10B, but I didn't register in 10B again. Should I have to register?
See, 2021 you have got 12 double A registration. That is perpetual
Yeah.
for at that time.
Yeah.
Then amendment came.
Yeah.
Then you are required to file 10A for re-registration.
Yeah.
That you did it. Now you got that 5 years registration.
I don't have to register in.
You check the period in the registration 10AC form. It is given for 5 years.
Yes, sir. But that is the personal registration.
So that, in that case, please see circular 11 of 2022. I have explained in detail. Okay, that's a printing error they are saying. And conditions also they have replaced. The circular 11, you keep permanently for at least for 5 years with your registration certificate. Yes, please. Yeah,
That is for the 3 years.
provisional.
Mistakenly, they have mentioned as a provisional for the 3 years.
If it is for 3 years, then it is real provisional registration. You must have applied in clause 3. See, this is another problem. That's what I said, strict timeline and strict provisions. If you have done the mistake in the wrong clause, in your case, if you are going for re-registration, the clause was 6A. 6A, number 1. 12A AC subclause 1. And that was for a limited period. 3 months, then 6 months, and then 31st March, and then again extended. So you must have filed in subclause 3. So that's why you have got the provisional registration. And those just were typographical error, they say. Provisional registration, but 5 years in the correct section, clause is correctly mentioned. So they have corrected there that mistake. But in your case, it is provisional, so you have to go for regular registration within the 6 months of commencement of activity or 6 months prior to the expiry of those dates. This is the chart I have given with the time period for your future reference. All when modification of object, what form is to be filed. This slide will be very useful in your practice. Now I want to go for cancellation. Now I think there is no question on registration now anymore. Okay. Because I thought I will go in detail for this registration and cancellation because new circular is there. There are many problems. There are many questions. Now cancellation of registration has become, I say, a big elephant. Or I can say it's very dangerous provision and may face huge tax liability. The trust may face that. Now there is amendment in cancellation provisions. Amendment means it is 100% substituted. Subsection 4 and 5 of section 12 AB are introduced from 1/4/22. As per the substituted provisions, including 1023C, whether registration or provisional registration has been granted to the trust or institution and subsequently it is noticed by PCIT or CIT. If they notice any of these, cancellation proceedings will start. Number one is occurrence of one or more specified violations. Now with those amendments, there are two specified income. They brought all specified income wherever certain violations are there, so that will be taxed at the maximum marginal rate. And specified violation, if you do specified violations, then in that case, cancellation proceedings will be taken up. So occurrence of one or more specified violations or has received a reference for cancellation from assessing officer 143(3). So this is a new procedure where assessing officer during any assessment proceedings. The earlier assessment were completed, done, violations, mistakes, whatever is there, you pay the tax or go for appeal and CIT has no knowledge what is going on. So now the provision is brought in 143(3) that assessing officer shall put up a reference before the CIT for cancellation of registration. I will repeat the word shall. So he has no option. May is not there. So assessing officer has to give reference to CIT for cancellation. That this is a violation, falls under cancellation provisions, and I am sending this reference for your consideration for cancellation, because cancellation power is only with CIT. Mind it. Now principal CIT is also covered. So now in that case, CIT will go through that violation. He may call for the documents and evidences and go through and give one opportunity to the assessee to explain their positions. And then he can come to a conclusion whether that reference is to be rejected, or registration is to be cancelled. Third is, such case has been selected in accordance with the risk management strategy formulated by the board from time to time for any previous year. If board thinks there are certain other situations, they can, they have brought this new, wordings, risk management strategies. Now they are also feeling there is a risk for them. Anyhow, whatever they are using, provision is important. They say if they feel they can ask for this reason, the cancellation can be done. Now, what is specified violation? Income has been applied other than the objects of the trust. Very important and far-reaching implications. With this addition of clause or situation under a specified violation, a trust can do activities only on the objects of the trust which is written in their constitution or trust deed. Now let us read again. Income has been applied other than for the objects of the trust. If your object is say only education, 100% education, and you have applied some money for medical, that is also equally good, needed charitable activity. In spite of that, the cancellation proceeding can be started. So the trustees, their staff, and we professionals has to see that whatever activities are done by the trust is as per their objects of the trust. If it is not, then go for change in the object process. And then do the activities. So this is a area we have to be very careful about that. There are judgments. But I think after this amendment, those will not be valid. Even if that activity is not mentioned in your trust deed, but if it falls under the definition of charitable purpose, 215, then registration cannot be cancelled. There are judgments. If you face this problem, you can take shelter of those provisions. But I think with this provision, bringing this amendment, those will not be stand valid. The second is trust or institution has income from profit and gains from business. You are all aware, section 11(4) and 4A permits business undertaking or incidental to the objects of the trust. So there are two conditions for that. Incidental to the attainment of the objects of the business. It should not be or, it should be and. There is a correction. And separate books of accounts are mentioned. It cannot be or. It's a typographical error. Incidental to the attainment of the object of the trust and separate books of accounts are maintained. Then in that case, that business activity can be done. But if any of these conditions are not fulfilled, particularly separate books of accounts. Separate books of accounts means separate bank account, separate balance sheet, separate profit and loss account, separate all expenses and everything separate. And then that surplus can be merged with the trust account. And there will be, it's like a branch. We all know the branch accounting. So like that only it should be clear-cut separate books of accounts, not a separate ledger in the normal activities. The requirement is separate books of account. Now requirement of books of accounts 17 AA, you all are aware what a big, even limited companies who are listed have not that strict maintenance of books of account provisions. And the trust has to maintain that. And not only that, the maintenance that books of account 17 AA rules have been brought into statute. If you are not maintaining, then again you can face the cancellation provisions. See what strict provisions. I am really, I am by nature philanthropic. I feel very bad about this. The duty which government should have been done, people are doing. There are black sheep, I agree with that. But you cannot hit with the same stick to all. And so strict provisions and they face big problems. And one more thing. I feel there will be more stricter provisions are going to come. Maybe particularly disclosures. So trust has to again see they have to be within the framework of the law. So in the third situation, income applied for private religious purposes which does not ensure benefit of public. So the income of the charitable trust which is registered, they have to apply that. They cannot apply that private religious purposes. If there is a private religious activity and you cannot apply for that. Subject to does not ensure the benefit of the public. If there is a benefit to the public, then you can apply that. The next is income applied for the benefit of any particular religious community or caste. Now, these cancellation provisions are there, but this comes in your way for registration as well. Because they will see all this. So you have to be careful for even before registration. So they say for any particular religious or caste. So one particular religious, particularly I'll say Jain activity, but I really salute to Jain and Jainism. What charitable activities they are doing, I have not seen any other communities doing so that much. Frankly, even other I have come to across, there are very good Muslim trusts also. They are doing very good activities. It is not that only in our Hinduism or any other, even churches are also. They have some other things is okay that we are not going for that, but they are also doing good activities. But here, if that religious community caste hoga, then in that case, cancellation procedure can be taken up. There is an exclusion as per explanation 2. If the trust is created for the benefit of SC, BC, ST or women and children will not be covered. If the beneficiaries are any of these clause, then this provision will not be applicable. Any activity being carried out by the trust or institution which is not genuine and not carried out in accordance with all or any of the conditions subject to which it was registered. So the conditions which are mentioned in 10AB, how many people have read those conditions? 10AB, 10AC form. See, we don't read that. Earlier, there were conditions which was beyond act and law, which they have corrected. Even corrected when the normal 10AC comes, please. Once only you have to read. You have not to read everyone, every registration. So once एक बार पढ़ लो तो आपको ख्याल आ जाता है कि क्या है. Even trustee को एक बार please read these conditions. Because there is a, if you do not follow any of the conditions mentioned in the registration, then cancellation proceedings can be initiated. And the consequences are very harsh. Now, this is also very important. Not complied with requirements of any other law which are material for the purpose of achieving its object. So, not complied with the requirements of any other law. So, they have covered any other law of the land which is in force. But there is one more sentence is added, which is very important, which are material for the purpose of achieving its objectives. If it is not material, then no problem. If it is material for achieving the objects of the trust, then there is a problem. Now, how can we find out which is material and which is not material? Give me an example, plus you tell me. Anybody? I wanted to drink the water. Thank you. See, small compliances, which is not achieving the objects. What you need to achieve your objects. For example, I'll tell you, if you want to open a nursing home or clinic or such any, or you want to start a school, primary, or then begin with that, and you do not obtain certificate medical to start medical center from municipal corporation, and you start there. That is material for achieving the object. Starting school, and you have not obtained license from Shikshan Shulk if it is false, education department, that is material for achieving your object. Now, big question is for if the trust registered under Maharashtra Public Trust Act, MPT Act. So people think in their mind that even normal non-compliances will also fall under this. My opinion, this is my personal opinion, that say not filing change report, not doing or filing accounts with the Charity Commission office, is it material for the achievement of your object? I think no. And there is one more reason for I am saying no, because these defaults are condonable under Maharashtra Public Trust Act. So the provision which can be condoned, how can we say? ये तो पहला ही topic है मेरा. Because I wanted to say a lot for corpus donations as well. Because there is so many problems in corpus donations as well. मुझे कुछ time दीजिए और ज़्यादा. If members permit, हैं? Because I will curtail your time. But I think you are very interested in listening to. I mark that. So you have to see from case to case whether it is material or not material. And one more condition is added for cancellation purpose. This provision is applicable for registration as well as cancellation. But there is a difference in both the provisions. In registration, they'll have to see just that whether you have complied or not, complied with the requirements of other law. That's it. But for cancellation, there is one more condition is added. It is in favor of the trust, that is, and the order, direction, or decree by whatever name called, holding that such non-compliance has occurred, has either not been disputed or has been attained finality. Unless that non-compliance is reached to finality, or if you have objected and filed an appeal, in those cases, cancellation proceedings cannot be started. So there is a difference between registration and cancellation. Here, finality they want to see. Their finality, they have to just see that whether you have complied or not. The next is the application referred to in 12(1) AC is not complete or it contains false or incorrect information. Here, our responsibility falls. No trust finds, very rarely, I think their staff must be filed. All this filing of application and form we are doing. So here the provision says the application referred to in 12(1) AC is not complete. If you have filed incomplete or it contains false or incorrect information. False information which people have done while filing 10A when the new provisions came. There was a question that whether the trust deed contains irrevocability clause or not. And the form was not going ahead if you write no. So most of the cases they have mentioned yes and got the registration. Even I have seen cases where people have applied for a provisional registration. Religious trusts have applied for ATG and mentioned in that form charitable and got the ATG provisional registration. So these cases will fall under this clause. So we have to be very careful. I will advise, because if 115 TD applies, because if the cancellation is done, 115 TD will apply, the trust has to pay huge tax. The trust can file a suit against you. Rajkamal Bhai agree with me. If chartered accountant does a mistake and registration is cancelled and the trust is facing huge tax liability, the trust has full right to file a suit against the chartered accountant for that loss. So why we should write? We should not write any false information or incorrect information. What will happen? Registration nahi milega na. Why we take on our head? So please, this is my humble request, professional guide, do not do any such thing.
And disturb peace of mind.
That is a great another loss to you. Case 2 साल 5 साल चलता रहा, but your peace of mind is gone. And we professional need that peace of mind if you want to flourish and do the good practice. Because we have always used our mind. What is our asset? Our knowledge. And I always say knowledge is power. So please take care of this provision. Now AO shall send reference, which we have covered. Now consequences. If the trust is cancelled, of course, you will be taxed at an unregistered 11 or 1023C will not be allowed to you. Moreover, provisions of 115 TD will apply. And that is a very harsh provision. I'll just, in short, I will explain that. The situations where this 115 TD will apply are: number one, cancellation of registration. Number two, modification in the object clause of the trust. And three, earlier was one only cancellation. Then modification in law was added thereafter. Now three more conditions are added by Finance Act 23. And it is ab initio, in the sense from 22-23 it will be applicable. So three conditions which more they have added. You have not applied for re-registration. You are having 12 earlier and you have not applied in Form 10A for re-registration. 115 TD will apply. You have not regularized your provisional registration. The provisional registration is not regularized. It is rejected. The trust will face 115 TD provisions. And third, if you are granted normal registration for 5 years, you do not apply within the prescribed time. The wordings are within the prescribed time. So 6 महीने में एक दिन भी late हो गया. This is strict timeline. So please be careful about these provisions. And now 115 what says maximum marginal rate on the accredited income. Now what is accredited income? Is market value of your fair market value of your assets minus liability. That is accredited income, and maximum marginal rate tax is to be levied. Now, in one case, there is a school, they missed the registration. Before the circular 7 came, they approached me. As 2-3 cases are there. They have a school, college, management college, building is there, trust has got land. The value is nearly 22 crores. And 22-23 assessment has been done, 143.3, additions is made on registration, and now they are facing 115 TD provisions. Now 30% of 20 crores, nearly 6 to 7 crores of tax. उनकी नींद खराब हो गई. See, I tell you, they have to sell their property. But they don't have so much funds or cash flow with them. So this is the seriousness of this 150 TD and cancellation and registration provisions. So please be careful. And one more thing. Discussion makes us wiser. Any issue comes in your practice, discuss with your close friends. If they have come across that, discuss with the people who are knowledgeable in that subject. You are welcome to discuss with me for an interest provision. So that you come to know what is to be done or what is not to be done. So discussion makes you wiser. So always think in our profession, there are certain groups even in the WhatsApp, they share their problems and solutions and all those things are there. So keep that habit. Even a person who was your article and become a CA and is expert in some matter, don't feel any shy. Because he has some knowledge and more experience in a particular topic or area. Now, Circular 7, I have fully covered. I am not going to cover certain issues here. Now, if time permits, now I can go for some other.
Only one thing. After listening to all these provisions, is it advisable not to go for registration and
Yes.
do only activity?
I tell you, this question has come to me from many sides. You see that you are within AOP, you are allowed, but tax liability will be there because in AOP, section 57 expenses will be allowed only the amount is spent to earn that income. So amount spent on the object of the trust will not be allowed as a deduction to you. And what is that trust activity? Major income they spend on the activities. So if you are ready to pay the taxes, fine. So AOP, you can file ITR 5 and go ahead with that.
For small trust.
Yes, for the small trust, it is possible to make. Otherwise, nobody like to remain small. And the time grows, the child also grows.
No, if many trust, old trust, many active persons have now not there. And some local activities are carried out throughout India. Why to bring them in the clutches of
But there are, I have said in the very beginning, what are the benefits? You are a legal entity, you get so many benefits, but you have to just follow the law. And see, I tell you one thing, very proudly, we all are capable of such provisions. Do you think you are not capable? Certainly we are. When ATHSC came, transfer pricing was there, international taxation, all those things. Now it has become normal because we learn. We learn every day. Even I learn every day on the trust provisions. So please read. We have a capacity. So read and go ahead with that. Don't be afraid of that. I can agree, age makes difference. But I tell you, I am but 73 running. Now age enrich your brain. Rather it is otherwise. If you more, it will be more sharp. Please come.
Questions can be later, let him complete because others can also make it. Please.
Yes. Sir,
You meet me.
I know.
Now please. Now corpus donation. Corpus donation in recent time after amendments, 3-4 years amendments is become very problematic. Registration provisions is there. The term corpus and definition of corpus, I am not going in detail. Written direction is required for corpus donation because the corpus, and it is the donor has privilege to tell you that it's a normal or corpus donations. It is not the donee which says, okay, I want corpus donations. That's not correct. So that direction from the donor is required to claim corpus donation as exemption. Now, earlier the corpus donation was not treated as an income up till 89. There is amendment in definition of income 222.2, where this is deleted. Amount income received with the specific direction of the corpus, those wordings are deleted, means the income covers even corpus. Now, if the corpus is income, then simultaneously there was another amendment, that is 11(1)(d) was added. The corpus donations was exempted 11(1)(d). Now you add corpus donation in your income, normal income, then claim 11(1)(d). So there is indirect benefit of 15% because your income exceeded by that amount.
yes.
But now there is a condition put. Now, direction with donor, there is no specific format. You can write any format, but it is required direction. And direction is not necessary to get along with the donation. You can obtain thereafter as well. But it is better, practical advice, along with any donation you receive, whether it is normal, means general donation or corpus donation, obtain letter from them and ID. So in future, you have not to be after them for those things, and when the assessment comes and The donor is not available, donor has gone abroad, and so many problems you may face, you can have. Even for normal donations also, you please obtain the letter and keep with you. And if there is a big donation, then capacity to donate also required, but generally nobody gives their capacity. But you can judge, you can see. मुकेश अंबानी 10 करोड़ दे रहा है तो उसकी कैपेसिटी है, मैं 10 लाख दे रहा हूं तो क्वेश्चन होगा. Thank you very much for this confidence. So, printed coupon accepted as a written direction. There is a judgment of Diamond Jubilee Trust that is in 2002, where the coupons were issued to the donors, that it is for the purpose, for the building purpose and that. So in this judgment, it is said that it can be taken as a corporate donation. Then there is a corporate donation is not part of the income. Corporate donation received by the trust registered 12AA cannot be put to tax. So there are again IT80 few judgments are there. I will not go into detail. There are at least 3-4 judgments. I have mentioned their name and the citation that it cannot be put to tax. Because corpus court have taken a view that this is a capital receipt. So with that view, one condition has been added in 11(1)(d) that the amount which you want to claim as a capital corpus as exemption, it is to be invested in 11(5) mode. If there is no restriction of application or spending corpus, you can spend part of the corpus. Charity Commission also says not 100% corpus, but part of the corpus you can spend. Income tax also there is no restriction, you can spend the part of the corpus. Now corpus, when you are spending, means you are spending for the application on the objects of the trust. So now the new amendment says that the corpus which is spent as an application of income will not be allowed as application of income the year in which it is spent. Because the condition is there, you have to either you 11(1)(d) you want to claim, then you put in the 11(5) investment mode and claim. And the wordings are, you have to maintain it, that investment for that such corpus. So this maintain it also giving some problem, because you cannot, then it means they don't want you to use it in future. But what will happen? That I have covered this situation, we'll see. So in that case, you cannot, if you make, you spend, no problem, but application will not be allowed. But now simultaneously they have brought amendment, okay, you can replenishment or you can re-deposit that money out of the income of your future income, say in the next year or third year. And out of that income, see, the wordings are out of the income of that year. You cannot, other donation you put it there. Donation is also normal income. So out of your income, if you put 11(5), then that amount to that extent, you will get application of income in that year. Now trust has to keep, or we have to keep the track. If such a disallowance is there, and then the year in which you put it in the investments, then, because in that year, your income will reduce. It means your spending will reduce because you are not using that money. Anyhow, that's a different issue. But you can put it back 11(5) and claim application. But then from 23, there is another amendment has been brought into the corporate donation that it will be restricted to 5 years. Means that, say, the benefit of reinvesting is for 5 years only. Within 5 years, you can do that. And the same provision is for borrowed fund. If you are spending on by borrowed fund, you will not get application of income. You will get application of income the year in which you repay the loan. But there is one catch. the loan borrowed before 21 will not be allowed. Now that's a big problem. A trust which is doing a suppose hospital building, a hospital takes 5 years, 6 years, and they have borrowed the fund in 20, and now you say you are not allowed. So this situation has been represented. Let's hope some correction will come. Corpus donation 1023C is very important to understand. Earlier, there was no exemption of corporate donation available to section 1023C. This is a corporate donation received by 1023C trust were required to spend on the purpose for which the trust was created. Now, the similar provision has brought into 1023C also. So corpus donation will be allowed as an exemption to 1023 trust, subject to they invest in 11 funds. And there are also same provision, redeposit for 5 years is also applicable. Earlier, there was no form was prescribed. See, 1023 trust was also entitled to spend or was required to spend 85% of its income. If they have not spent 85%, so the shortfall, they were required to spend in 5 years. It was automatic accumulation over and above 15%. And there was no any prescribed form. There was no any intimation. And 9A and 10, there are two forms. 9A is for 11. That is not available to 1023. Okay, 100% income is exempted. There is question of spending in next year. But accumulation can be done for 5 years there also. But now that 5 years, the new form has been substituted, the old 10 form, which is common for 11 and 1023C both, where you have to just give the details and every year that form is to be filed. So these two changes are there in that. Applicability requirements of the invest 11.5 application before 1.4 will not be allowed. There are donations in charitable box. This is also a big issue. There are one case that Madhvi Trust, wherein the ITAT has allowed that corporate donation in a box. There were two boxes, one for non-corporate donation, one for corporate donation, and the court has said that the donor has taken that view that he is donating for the corpus, but the problem is anonymous donation, no name and address of the donor. But if it is a religious trust, then anonymous donation is exempted. But there are contrary decisions in other two cases where the court has taken a view, no, it is not correct, because the reason is the direction should be from donor. You cannot ask हमको corporate donation में दो इसमें. So there are contrary, and these two judgments will be helpful to you. Corpus donation with a specific direction received by unregistered trust. Even unregistered trust, there are two judgments favorable and one is contrary judgment, which says that no, non-registered trust will not get corpus exemption. But two judgments says it is litigated now, unless it is the higher courts have taken the view. There they say even unregistered trust, corpus donations are capital receipts, it is not taxable. One more, this is the last point I think I will cover. Interest on corpus donation. Now, if a donor has donated, say 10 lakhs rupees, and he says the interest of this investment is also be treated as a corpus. So in this connection, earlier judgment was there where they says in Mata Amritmai that is exempted because it's a donor's instruction. Second is, now specific direction can be on incidental, identical letters, that is different issue. But here, if no direction is given, only corporate donation is given, then the interest income will be normal income. It will be normal income and treating the normal provisions of that. And one more thing, with this judgment and provision, if corporate donation is given to you, you have invested there. Interest is also corporate donation. So what you will do with that donation? It's not available to you at all. Only book entry, bank balance. Because interest also you are not allowed to use. That situation is different. This is my view. Friends, I think inter-charity donation I wanted to cover. There is a circular. I have given examples. Now that 85% disallowance to trust donation has been diluted. And they have given 3 examples. I have just narrated, but I have given my own 4 examples, which earlier my slide you can see when there was no this circular and it was cleared. Now in this situation, that 15% will be allowed. 115 BBI will not apply. So that provision of spending 85% or disallowance application will be restricted to 85% is also diluted. Now 115 BBI, just read it. Thank you very much. I think whatever I wanted to cover, I tried my best last slide, देखो. Now, any question you can ask me thereafter. I think thank you very much, and I have taken your, I think, lot of time. In fact, thank you. This is my email ID. You can send any query to me. I will reply that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vipin sir.
So, do you have your contact number, sir?
email ID से आप हाँ email ID से आप उनसे one to one. Okay, we are starting with the second session. Before that, we'll take a short vote of thanks to our first speaker by Deputy Convener Kailash ji.
Good morning, friend. I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose the vote of thanks to our eminent Speaker CA Vipin Batavia, sir. Thank you, Convener Madam, for giving me this opportunity. Friends, today is the auspicious day, is birthday of our esteemed convener. Happy birthday, madam, and request all of you to say happy birthday to you.
We will also want to give birthday bumps.
Friends, CA Batavia ji had enlightened every aspect, recent development and issue pertaining to charitable trust. On behalf of JB Nagar CP Study Circle, I, Kailash Kataruka, Deputy Convener, immensely thankful to CA Vipin Batavia sir for his efforts toward sharing his knowledge and elegance of explanation of everything on the above topic. I need to mention my deepest sense of appreciation. I also extend thanks to hotel management and staff who provided good venue for us with delicious tea, coffee, and cookie. I'm sure after session it will be lunch. On behalf of our esteemed study circle, I request all of you to give a round of applause for the speaker. Thank you. And friends, be ready for our second speaker. I also thanks Convener Madam to giving me opportunity to introduce our second speaker, CA Nishchit Chetty. He is a practicing chartered accountant and the co-founder of SBM and Company. He is not only a seasoned business strategist, but also a dedicated educator and dynamic speaker. His expertise lies in leveraging cutting-edge technology such as Zoho to streamline financial process for business, delivering growth-oriented strategy that drive success. With over 5 years of hands-on experience with Zoho, he is committed to empowering business to achieve their full potential. Friends, CA Nishchit Shetty has also delivered sessions at various ICI study circles, sharing his expertise, knowledge